Indonesia's Mount Sumeru has erupted, pouring ash and smoke an estimated 5.6 kilometers into the sky above Java, the country's most densely populated island. No evacuation orders have so far been issued and no casualties reported. The National Disaster Mitigation Agency warned villagers living on the mountain slopes to be alert for ongoing volcanic activity. Footage showed ash from the 3,676-meter volcano looming over homes. Sumeru, also known as the Great Mountain, is the highest volcano in Java and one of the most active. It is also one of Indonesia's most popular tourist hiking destinations. All 50 U.S. states and the District of Columbia, D.C. are on alert for possible violent protests this weekend ahead of President-elect Joe Biden's inauguration on Wednesday. National Guard troops have been sent to Washington, D.C. to deter any repeat of last week's deadly riots. The FBI has warned of possible armed marches by pro-Trump supporters at all 50 states' capitals. In D.C., an armed man was arrested on Friday as security was ramped up. Capitol Police confirmed on Saturday that a Virginia man carrying a non-government-issued credential was stopped and arrested at a security checkpoint with at least one gun and 509 rounds of ammunition. A critical engine test for NASA's new mega rocket, the Space Launch System (SLS), has ended early. The four engines ignited with a flash, burning for more than a minute before the test was aborted. The core stage of the SLS was being tested at Stennis Space Center nearby St. Louis, Mississippi. The engines were supposed to fire for 8 minutes to simulate the rocket's climb to orbit. The SLS is part of NASA's Artemis program, which aims to put Americans back on the lunar surface in the 2020s. When it makes its maiden flight later this year, the SLS will become the most powerful rocket ever to have flown to space. Over 1.6 million people in Beijing had received COVID-19 vaccines as of Friday, marking that the city has basically fulfilled the vaccination task for this winter-spring period, targeting several key groups. Last December, China announced to start inoculating 9 key groups with COVID-19 vaccines, which is expected to lower the risk of domestic outbreaks of the epidemic. These groups include those engaged in handling imported cold-chain products, customs officers, medical workers, and people working in public transport and fresh produce markets. Beijing has set up 220 inoculation venues and began to give the first dose of COVID-19 vaccine among specific groups of people with high infection risk who are at the age of 18 to 59 on January 1st.
Oxygen supplies are flown to the coronavirus-hit Amazonas state by the Brazilian army, as fears grew worldwide on Friday over a new Brazilian variant of the disease, which researchers say could be contributing to a sharp rise in cases there. Nearly 6,000 people have died in Amazonas from COVID-19, and it's now in the grip of a devastating second wave. Scientists are trying to work out whether this variant is more contagious than earlier ones, but there are signs it is spreading overseas. That concern led Britain to ban travellers from Brazil and other South American countries as a result, as well as banning Portugal, which has close ties to Brazil, after Japan said it had detected the Brazilian variant in 4 travellers from Amazonas. Amazonas extended its urgent call for oxygen to the United States, as hospitals in the capital, Manaus, neared breaking point. Scores of patients are being airlifted from Manaus, an isolated city deep in the Amazon rainforest, to other states. The variant found in Brazil has 12 mutations, including one also found in the highly contagious variants discovered in Britain and South Africa. Brazil's President Jair Bolsonaro has been lambasted for downplaying the severity of Brazil's outbreak, though it's the world's second deadliest. As pressure mounts on the country to get vaccinations underway, he cast doubt on the shot's efficacy on Thursday. As a leader, I wouldn't force you to take it, he says, adding that it isn't, quote, scientifically proven. Brazil plans to start inoculations in the middle of next week.
A deliberate show of military might from North Korea and its leader Kim Jong-un. The country held an extravagant parade on Thursday and included the showcasing of what appeared to be a new submarine-launched ballistic missile. It caps off more than a week of political meetings, with Kim waving from a balcony at cheering crowds below. The parade featured rows of marching soldiers as well as a range of military hardware, including tanks and rocket launchers. At the end, a number of what analysts said appeared to be a range of new short-range ballistic missiles, including the submarine versions rolled into the square on trucks. Experts say North Korea is seeking to develop an operational submarine to carry the missiles. It hasn't tested a nuclear bomb or fired its longest-range missile since 2017. But Kim has signalled that that period may now be at an end, since dialogue with the US and its outgoing President Donald Trump has stalled. North Korean officials have been meeting in Pyongyang for the first party conference in 5 years and rounded off proceedings with a large-scale group photo that included Kim and several thousand members of Congress.
The start of earnings season failed to give Wall Street the excitement investors hoped for. The Dow fell 177 points on Friday, the S&P 500 lost 27, the Nasdaq declined 114. JP Morgan Chase, America's largest bank, beat quarterly forecasts. It released nearly $3 billion from the reserve fund set up to cover loans it feared would go bad after the economy cratered in the spring. It did throw a note of caution out there that loan demand was likely to remain sluggish this year. Citigroup topped profit forecasts, but higher costs and a fall in revenues at its consumer business dented any enthusiasm for the results. It released $1.5 billion that it set aside to cover loan defaults. Wells Fargo rounded out the day with a small rise in quarterly profits, which helped the tarnished bank exceed estimates. Its finances are still hampered by a series of past scandals. Wells Fargo was one of the worst performing stocks in the S&P 500. JP Morgan was down 1.8%. Citigroup took a 7% beating. Another thing weighing on the market, President-elect Biden's $1.9 trillion stimulus plan released the day before. With the Senate evenly split between Democrats and Republicans, investors like Mercadian Asset Management's Ken Kamen wonder how much of the Biden plan will even see the light of day. Investors also had to contend with mixed economic data. U.S. retail sales suffered their third straight monthly drop in December, confirming signs the economy ended the year in a struggle. But there was a bright spot. Manufacturing output increased more than expected last month.